Hey, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the NFL Day-to-Day Preview Show presented by Stats Perform. I am your host, Mike Leon. I'm so excited. Week 14. Maybe I'm excited because the Raiders are on a 3-game winning streak. We're going to get to that in a second. This week, we're going to break down Week 14 in the National Football League with stats and insights, courtesy of Stats Perform's amazing new tool called PressBox Live. Head to statsperform.com today to see how NFL teams, broadcasters, communication staffs, and more utilizing PressBox Live to help augment their game day coverage. Joining me, as always, the other two amigos to make us the three amigos that break down NFL matchups. First, NFL writer over at The Analyst. Check out all his work at theanalyst.com. Nicholas McGee. Nicholas, say hello to you. It's evening where you are, daytime where I am. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. The clouds the sun's gone in, and the temperature is down in the 20s and the 30s in the Fahrenheit. So it's very cold. Hence my chunky knit sweatwear I've got on today.
Wow, that is really cold. I cannot relate because I'm in Miami, Florida. And speaking of somebody who's in a neutral climate, joining us as always, AI data analyst over at Stats Perform and a contributor on The Analyst, Kyle Cunningham-Rhoads. Kyle, what's the weather like over there where you are?
Oh, a little dreary today. It's like mid 60s, but kind of rainy. It's starting to feel like winter is around the corner. So.
I sound like a weatherman going from the Weather Channel, going to different places now. Let's hear how the weather is over here. Let's hear how the weather is over there. Speaking of the weather, let's get into actual. I have no transition there, but let's get into the sport that we love. We were talking about this off air about, obviously, we're not going to cover the Thursday night game between the Raiders and Rams. By the time you're hearing this, that game has already completed. But there's a bunch of good matchups happening this Sunday. We're going to break down a few of them, obviously. And let's start first with one that's really intriguing right now, the Red Hot Eagles, who Kyle's been on all year long. He's given every NFL award to the Eagles that's possible, from O-line to Jalen Hurts as well. And they're heading to the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium there to take on the Giants. The Giants have not had a pretty, since maybe 3 weeks ago, kind of a tailspin here. The tie, the loss to the Lions, the loss to the Cowboys, and then the tie to the Commanders this past week in a game where they probably should have won that game, blew a lead there late. Kyle, I'll start with you first. Eagles, Giants, big matchup here. The Giants right now are running on a little bit of fumes. They're going to play the Commanders in a few weeks. That game's been flexed into a Sunday night game. And they really need this win right here, especially with what's happening in the wildcard races in the NFC. The Eagles have a little bit of a lead right here, not only over the Cowboys, but some other teams to get the 1 seed in the NFC. What are some things that you're looking forward to in this matchup Sunday?
Well, as somebody who works in season simulations, I'm most upset that those two teams decided to tie last week. That brings all sorts of new scenarios into play that I really did not want to have to deal with. We've sort of talked about the Giants repeatedly on this segment, and after their fast start, we were like, okay, like we're impressed with what Daboll's getting out of this team, but they're still sort of second to last or third to last in our team ratings. And even I think they lost to the Seahawks, and it was like, okay, this is sort of the first. We just sort of see what the Giants really are, and it's really just sort of gone downhill from there, right? They're dealing with tons and tons of injuries, specifically on defense, and I think that's really where I'm going to be looking is how the Giants' defense is going to stop this brute force of an offense in the Eagles. I mean, they've got everything going for them, the Eagles' offense, and when they don't run the ball, or when they do run the ball 2 weeks ago. They can just pound it down people's throats. If they face a stout run defense like the Titans, they can just say, no, that's fine. We'll just, throw back-to-back 40-yard completions to A.J. Brown for touchdowns. The first one didn't count, the second one did. They're a tough team to find answers for, and the Giants are a tough team to sort of find answers. Their injuries, specifically in their secondary, have been absolutely brutal. They're down 2 or 3 of their top cornerbacks. Dory Jackson and Darnay Holmes have not played. They've been, Wink Martindale is famous for all of his pressures. They've been trying to kind of pressure their way into good coverage. It worked all right against the Commanders last week, but against a team that, again, has so many answers and a quarterback as mobile as Jalen Hurts is, and as dynamic when he does get on the move, I'm not really seeing a place where the Giants are going to be able to slow this offense down. it's going to be a really tough task to keep up with the amount of points that the Eagles are probably going to score in this game.
You know, just as you were saying that, I saw a stat and insight. Obviously, I'm going to give it here, presented by PressBox Live, about the Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts. He's been so fantastic this year. He's thrown for 20 touchdowns this season while rushing for 9 more. And he's only thrown 3 interceptions. There's been no quarterback in NFL history that has ever had a season with 20 plus passing touchdowns, 8 plus rushing touchdowns, and 5 or fewer interceptions. I don't know how we get these insights, but I'm telling you, our team does amazing work. One thing on the Giants real quick before I turn to Nicholas and get some preview of this matchup. The Giants in that 2020 to tie, that was the 34th tie in team history. Since the Giants' first game in 1925, listen to this crazy stat. Only the Cardinals, 36, have played in more tied games than the Giants. 34 ties in Giants history from that tie on Sunday. It's always funny seeing a tie in the NFL. It's weird. It's like olden college football games when they would just end in a tie, no overtime. Nicholas, I turn to you. What are you looking forward to in this big game between the Eagles and the Giants? Giants on a little bit of a spurt here, and the Eagles, who can mount them off? Maybe they're peaking too high at the wrong time. You kind of want to be peaking going into the playoffs, but what are you looking forward to in this matchup?
Yeah, somehow the Cardinals being top of that tie stat just feels right. That feels correct. I kind of build off what you said and what KCR said. It's how on earth for me do the Giants stay in this? We have a stats perform efficiency versus expected, which is effectively how many yards did you get against how many yards you expected to get. On pass offense, the Giants are second to last. They're fourth on rush offense, but they'll have to rely on the running game. But the Eagles have got a defense where they've kind of really committed resources to stopping the run even more with the additions of Dominican Sue and Linval Joseph. So they really beefed up that defensive front to try and stop the run as well. Giants 20th in offensive points scored. Philadelphia second. Giants are allowing 5.1 yards per carry. So the Eagles can run down the throat. So as KCR alluded to, so I just don't get how the Giants are supposed to stop the most diverse run game in the NFL and then keep up with them on offense. It has all the hallmarks of a mismatch for my money.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Well, let's turn to the score part of this. Nicholas, I stay with you. What do you got score-wise there at MetLife Stadium?
Yeah, I see this going very pear-shaped for the Giants very quick. I'm going to say 27-13 to the Eagles.
27-13 to the Eagles. KCR, before you make a pick, one more stat. Maybe this will get you to sway one way or the other. You've been high on the Eagles all year. The Giants have won consecutive home games against the Eagles. Most recently with the last one in Jersey, week 12 last year, 13-7 win. It's not going to be 13-7 win, but despite that little mini win streak, New York is just 6-13 at home against the Eagles since 2003. Will it be 6-14? According to KCR, what do you say score-wise?
Yeah, I think it absolutely will be as the cat walks across my desk. I've got 30-17. I really just am not seeing a way that the Giants can slow down this offense.
Well, let me tell you something. If you know New York sports, a cat walking across is actually good luck if you're a Mets fan from back in the 60s. I'm with you guys, though. I think fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles fans tend to travel pretty well in this rivalry. I know, as having gone down to Philadelphia myself and attending some of these games, I think there'll be about a 60-40 split there, somewhere in there. I think a lot of Eagles fans are going to be in the building. I think the Eagles will not roll. I do think that the Giants will put up a good fight, but 27-20, somewhere in that neighborhood. Give me the Eagles. Let's turn to our second matchup here, because again, a lot of good games on Sunday. This one's kind of intriguing only because of the recent losses by the Jets and the Chargers last week. We were talking off air about my Raiders potentially climbing back into the playoff picture, where here's a team at home, the Steelers, they welcome in the 8-4 Ravens without Lamar Jackson. He is hurt now. They barely won that game against the Broncos there. So it's going to be very interesting, this matchup. The Ravens are 8-4 right now. They're up top the division, but the Bengals are here and not going anywhere anytime soon. Nicholas, I'll start with you first. This matchup's pretty intriguing because if the Steelers can get this win, again, a 7-5 team right now, 7-6 technically with the Jets. If they lose the game against the Bills this coming Sunday, which we'll preview next, they're right in the playoff hunt if they were to get this win. Whereas on the Ravens side, they're missing their leader, and the offense looked really bad last week against the Broncos. What are you looking forward to in this matchup between the Ravens and the Steelers?
Yeah, you said it. The offense has looked pretty bad the last couple of weeks. Like you said, I mentioned the Broncos game. Broncos have got a very, very good defense. The less said about the offense, the better. A couple of weeks ago against the Panthers as well, they scored 13 points, and now you've got Tyler Huntley in there instead of Lamar Jackson. So it's just kind of what will that look like? The Ravens obviously run the ball very well. They're second in success rate behind the Eagles in that regard. But then the bottom half of the league in pass success rate, and they're sandwiched between the Cardinals and the Colts, which is not a good place to be in the slightest. And they're facing a Steelers team that the defense hasn't been maybe what it was in the past, but they're still ranked 12th, top half in the league in run disruption rate. So if Pittsburgh takes the run away, what can Tyler Huntley do to get it going? And Pittsburgh have been getting there on offense. I mean, it's not great at times, but Pickett's slowly looking better. Najee Harris is probably having his best stretch of the season. He's got an oblique injury, so we'll see whether he can go. He missed practice on Wednesday, but hopefully he can go. And you've got Pickett developing that rapport with George Pickens, two names that go well together. So yeah, I think there's quite a lot of ingredients here for a really close game and potentially an upset.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a close game. We're going to get into score prediction in a second, but Steelers winning that game last week, a little bit of a surprise. But the way the Ravens looked, and obviously the injury is the big part here. Here's another stat and insight presented by PressBox Live. Since drafting Lamar Jackson in 2018, the Ravens are 45-16 in games started by Jackson. That's a .738 win percentage. They're 6-10 when anyone else starts at quarterback. KCR, we're going to get into predictions in a second, but this matchup between the Ravens and the Steelers, obviously the focal point is going to be the Steelers defense against the Ravens offense. What are you looking forward to in this matchup? Is that the only part of this game, or is there another part to this? Can the Steelers score against the Ravens defense?
Yeah, that's definitely the side I want to focus on. I think I would have spent a little more time on the Ravens offense if Lamar Jackson was playing. These AFC North games always feel like they're going to be slogs, and then every once in a while you get these sort of random shootouts. And sort of one thing that we look at here is not just home field advantage by stadium, but also points by stadium, right? So how many points are added to a game? The Cowboy Stadium adds a lot. All the Dome Stadium adds a lot. And oddly, Heinz Field, or whatever they're calling it now, also adds a lot. I have no idea what that is. I don't know if it's just a fast turf, if the conditions are great, if the field just encourages scoring. We're not really sure. So this idea that it could be just kind of a slog, defensive heavy game, that's kind of what I thought was going to be going in. But then we ran our models and it sort of predicts a lot of points. I think the Ravens defense is really, really hard to run against. You saw the Broncos really struggle with, everything, but specifically the running game last week. That interior with Calais Campbell, who's still just wrecking faces at 36 years old. Justin Madubuike, another good young player for the Ravens that they found who sort of flies under the radar. I think that if the Steelers can score, it's going to have to be through the air. The Ravens secondary is getting healthier. We're not really sure if Marcus Williams is going to play. That would be a big help to this defense. But I think that I know George Pickens had some choice words to say about lack of targets that he's been getting over the last couple of weeks. I think that this is a game where he could take advantage of some of the way that the Ravens like to play coverage. Right, they're sort of a really aggressive secondary. They like to sort of get. Marcus Peters is one of their cornerbacks. They really like to, or he specifically likes to kind of jump routes and get interceptions. But lined up against somebody like Pickens who can make big plays down the field, this could be the game where he has. I don't think they're going to feed him the ball relentlessly, but he could have a couple of touchdowns on 5 catches or something like that through the air. Deontay Johnson on the other side has been, that he's the biggest reason why Pickens isn't getting the target share that he wants. But that's because Deontay Johnson's really good. He can run all of the routes. He gets open. He's got 106 matchups this year where he's been one-on-one in man coverage. He's won 57 of them for about a 58 or a 54% win percentage. That's among the tops in the league. He's been among the tops in the league for multiple years in a row. He's a really dynamic receiver on the outside, and then having the deep threat on the other side of the field is going to be able to stretch this Ravens secondary. If the Steelers can protect long enough, I think we see some big chunk plays from the Steelers offense. And that's how they put up points in this game. Yeah,
I'm really interested. The Steelers didn't have any turnovers in the win against the Falcons last week. It was their 4th straight game without committing a turnover. They can protect the ball and get a lead. I mean, we saw the Broncos almost close that game out up 9-3. It looked like there was no chance that the Ravens were ever going to score a touchdown to take the lead in that game. I want to give another stat and insight presented by PressBox Live before we get into our predictions, because maybe this will factor in. I think we're all on the same train of thought here with respect to who's going to win. But meeting for the first time this season, the Steelers are on a 4-game win streak against the Ravens, all 4 wins coming by 5 or fewer points in these last 4 matchups. There's only been 2 matchups in NFL history that have seen a team beat another team 5 straight times, all by fewer than 6 points. Eagles versus the Commanders back from 92 to 95, and the Raiders beating the Broncos. Oh, that feels so good. From 89 to 91. We're going to continue that streak going into next year as well, as we swept them so far this year. Prediction time, KCR, Steelers, Ravens, AFC North. Oh, I got the chills. I'm ready. I'm ready to bundle up and have a hot cocoa. Who's winning the game?
Yeah, apart from just an elite uniform combo also. I love when these 2 teams play. We do have the Steelers winning. I do think it's going to be really close, but we have been impressed with what Pickett's done so far. I've got it as a 24-23 Pittsburgh victory.
Oh, there is no chance that 47 points are getting scored in this game. I will take the under in that one, but let's see. Nicholas, what do you got in this matchup? Let's see if we're on the same train of thought here.
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence before, but I think yourself and KCR have convinced me. I'm going to go Steelers as well. A bit closer, 24-20 to Pittsburgh.
I'll go 17-14. Give me the under. Give me the Steelers in this game. I just look, Dome last week, 19-16, 35 points between the Steelers and the Falcons. I watched a lot of that Ravens game. That was a game to burn that tape. I can't imagine the Ravens scoring that many points in this game. It's going to be tough. We'll see, but you never know what Harbaugh does. Maybe does something on special teams that will get the team going. He's known for that type of stuff. Let's move into another matchup. Again, another pivotal matchup here in the AFC that will now, as we're starting to shake out the playoff race here, the Jets head up to Buffalo to take on the Bills to complete the home and home here in the AFC East. Bills obviously leading the division with the Dolphins losing to Nicholas's Niners last week. I'll start with you first, Nicholas, on this Jets-Bills matchup. We've been killing Zach Wilson. You've been killing Zach Wilson a lot. As a matter of fact, Zach Wilson, if you want to write into Nicholas, you certainly can. But he's no longer the quarterback, right? Mike White has taken over now. Last week, falling to the Vikings, that game a little out of hand in the first half, and then Jets kind of making it close towards the end, not able to pull it out. What do you expect? And the Bills obviously winning on Thursday against the Patriots. What are you expecting in this matchup between the Jets and the Bills?
Yeah, so in the Week 9 matchup where the Jets stunned the Bills and effectively just said, Zach, don't do anything stupid, and he didn't do anything stupid in this occasion. The Bills, we have our numbers, only registered 6 pressures, but Wilson's time to throw was 2.05 seconds, which is absolutely lightning fast for the NFL, which shows you just getting the ball out, rid of the ball immediately when you got back to pass. But now you've got Von Miller missing for the season, the torn ACL for the Bills, and you've got Mike White at quarterback. And Mike White's been pretty good under pressure, 85.7% well thrown rate under pressure, so accurate nearly 86% of the time when he's been under pressure this season. So do the Jets kind of change up the formula a little bit? Do they still go with let's get the ball out really quickly and negate any pass rush that the Bills have? Or do they allow Mike White to hang in the pocket, hit some longer developing plays to the likes of Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and that really good receiving core? So it'll just be really interesting to see how they approach it, because I think, I don't speak for KCR, but I think he would agree with me that the Jets defense is probably likely to keep New York in it, regardless of the approach that they take. So it's just kind of, what approach do they take? Do they switch it up, or do they stay the course with what worked last time?
Yeah, I saw a stat, obviously from our tool, PressBox Live. You can head to statsperform.com today to check out this PressBox Live tool. But Mike White, last week, you were talking about Mike White, and he had 369 yards passing last week, 0 touchdowns. That's a little bit part of the problem. He is the first Jet quarterback to ever throw for more than 350 yards without a touchdown pass. The last player to do so in the NFL, forget about Jets history, was Kyler Murray in week 14 of last season. So the Jets were able to move the football last week. And again, maybe some of that being late in the game there where, the Vikings maybe playing a little bit softer in the coverage. Maybe KCR has more on that. KCR, Jets, Bills, what are you looking forward to in this matchup here in Orchard Park?
I think it's Josh Allen against the Jets defense. And last time they sort of bottled them up a little bit. On the year, we have the Jets as the number one cover team in the NFL, the number one pressure team in the NFL, and the number 13 run defense team in the NFL. Now, that's all just measuring one-on-one matchups on an individual level. Their defense is fantastic. They've got playmakers at all levels. Sauce Gardner has been absolutely fantastic on the year. He has 76 one-on-one matchups in man coverage. He's only lost 16 of them, 18 losses in 74 zone matchups. So he can really play man or zone, which is great for what this team likes to run. Lots of man coverage, lots of cover four. He's just been absolutely fantastic for a rookie. I'm not sure, he really plays one side of the field, so I'm not sure how many digs on Sauce matchups we're going to get. I'm hoping that we get quite a few of them. Justin Jefferson got him a couple times last week. He got Justin Jefferson a couple times last week. I think that is the matchup that I'm really looking forward to. And then the Bills sort of transition into a more of a running offense over the last couple weeks of the season. I think that part of it is Josh Allen's injury, but they've really sort of ramped up their run percentage over the last couple of games. That is a weakness for the Jets, is run defense. So whether or not they sort of rely on the run, prevent Josh Allen from having to throw 45 times against this really stout pass defense for the Jets. That Bills offense against Jets defense is going to be something that I'm really, really interested in this week.
Well, the Jets, when they won that Week 9 matchup that Nicholas was talking about, they snapped a 4-game losing streak to the Bills here. Buffalo, however, is 7-3 in their last 10 home games against the Jets. They've won the last 2 by double digits up in Orchard Park. So with that, prediction time, KCR, what are you expecting in this match? This is a huge game in this division. Everybody's within a couple of games, even the Pats losing that Thursday night game to the Bills. The Dolphins obviously are right behind, a game behind. The Jets are a couple of games behind, but they would sweep the season series if they won this game. What do you got score-wise there, KCR?
So I do have it a little closer than what the odds makers seem to be putting it at. I've got it at about a touchdown game, so about 24-17 Bills victory.
And Nicholas, what about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. One possession game. I'm going 28-20 to Buffalo.
Yeah, I'll meet you guys in the middle, like Price is Right, with the guy who always says, $14.99, and it ends up being $1,500. I'll say 27-20 as well. One possession game. Got to trust Josh Allen in that spot. I know Jet fans are a little high on Mike White right now. And again, a good week last week passing, minus the no touchdowns part of this. But I think the Bills will prevail in this matchup, extend their lead a little bit in the AFC East. Let's move over to another division. Can't really move over to another division because neither team plays in the same division, but we'll go to the NFC side of the ball. Last week, if you were watching that Monday night game and you fell asleep when there was about 5 minutes left, let me tell you something, like I did. You missed the entire game because the Bucs and the Niners is the matchup we're going to break down here. Tom Brady, defying the odds and down 16-3, somehow wins that game. Again, I fell asleep. I was like, oh, wow, another bad loss in a division where everybody would now be below 500. Tom Brady said, nope, I'm going to take care of that. And they ended up winning. The Bucs are 6-6 now. Now they head to the Niners, where, Nicholas, we're going to start with you first. This is your team. Jimmy Garoppolo is not out for the year, but he may return later on in the year. Obviously, Trey Lance has been out for the season. The quarterback issues, they weren't able to get Baker Mayfield. He ended up going on waivers to the Rams. Not sure if he would have helped or not. You'll get into that in a second. But the Niners are on a little bit of a roll here. They were still able to take care of the Dolphins even without Jimmy G. What are you expecting in this matchup between the Bucs and the Niners as Tampa comes cross country?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever finished a game where my team's won 5 in a row and felt more conflicted about it. But yeah, this is all about Mr. Suddenly Relevant, Mr. Brock Purdy. This is all about what we saw against the Dolphins. Was it real or was it a mirage? Because I think what we saw against the Dolphins was pretty impressive, to be honest. We watched the tape of that. This guy was poised, he was accurate, he was decisive, he made full field reads, he moved defenders with his eyes, and he dealt with pressure really well. Our data counted 11 snaps where the Dolphins sent 5 pass rushers, all sent a defensive back on a blitz, and his well thrown rate on that was nearly 82%. and it was 86.5 for the overall in the game in any kind of snap. So it was really, really impressive, and it will have to be really impressive again, because I think the Bucs defense is better than that Dolphins defense. And they're going to throw a lot at him as well. Todd Bowles will throw a lot at the 7th round rookie making his first start, a lot of different looks there. And they'll probably take the run game away as well, because they're 5th in success rate against the run. Niners looked a little better against the run, on the ground. Last week. Numbers don't really reflect it, but they're getting a little bit more out of the rookie Jordan Mason, who's kind of looks like he might build a decent partnership with Christian McCaffrey, but with what the Bucs can do up front against the run, this is all on Purdy's shoulders again. If he can deliver a repeat performance, I think the Niners will probably be fine, because I didn't really see anything outside of what happened after you fell asleep from the Bucs to suggest that they'll have sustained success here against a defense that is just putting together a remarkable 2-year run of dominance, to be really honest.
I think maybe it was Joe Buck and Troy Aikman putting me to sleep there. That's more on that later on. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, I think also the Buccaneers have had a tough time under Brady against the Saints. I mean, you can just go back to every matchup, and most of them end in Tom Brady throwing a tablet during a Saints matchup. KCR, before I turn to you, Stat Insight presented by Pressbox Live. The Bucs are 3-12 all time on the road against the 49ers. 3-12, Nicholas. You heard that before you make your prediction in a bit. Among teams with at least 5 all-time road games against the Niners, no team in NFL has a worse record than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3-12 in San Francisco. That's terrible. 15 matchups in San Francisco. KCR, does the trend continue? We'll get into predictions in a second, but what are you looking forward to in this matchup between the Bucs and the Niners?
Oh man, just a good time, I think. Really look, the Bucs are one of those teams that our power ratings or our team ratings have had sort of in the top 10 all season. They have a great defense. They have a ridiculous amount of talent on offense, and it just, they have these stretches where you have 4 or 5 consecutive plays where you're like, man, that is an impossible offense to stop. And then they have 2 1-yard rushes, and the defense runs a pressure look, and they have to punt. It's a really kind of frustrating experience watching the Bucs offense. They did, I think, those last couple of drives against the Saints looked like what we expect to see from the Bucs offense. But they have one heck of a test this week. The Niners defense is really something else. And I think that if Tristan Wirfs doesn't play, which I don't think that he will, that's going to be a huge, huge hole for them against the Niners, because Nick Bosa, for the most part, lines up against the right tackle. And Bosa against Wirfs would have been a really, really good matchup and almost an even matchup. Bosa against what is probably going to be Josh Wells, not such a good matchup for the Buccaneers. That's a place I think Wirfs is a long shot to play. I wouldn't expect him to. But just seeing how this offense attacks when they're going to be when the defensive line can really sort of pin their ears back and get after a quarterback who is not going to scramble. If they can get the ball downfield to Mike Evans, if he has time to be able to do that. Other than that, I think it's going to be a really, really heavy sort of running backs out of the backfield, catching passes. Chris Godwin, kind of a lot of what we saw against the Saints. And we saw how that offense looked against the Saints for most of that game. I think that Brady could be really, really, really frustrated in this game. But it's going to be a great viewing experience. Yeah.
And maybe another tablet thrower. You had me thinking Wirfs, Bosa there, Iowa and Ohio State, respectively, a bunch of Big Ten matchups there. Iowa always seems to have the big offensive linemen. At least I know them in my history as a Raider fan with Robert Gallery. Another stat and insight before we get into predictions here. San Francisco's won 5 straight games while holding its opponents to 17 or fewer points. It's the 4th such streak in team history and the first since a 6-game streak in the 92 season. With that, prediction time here. KCR, I'll turn to you here. Let's see if we're on the same train of thought here. We know where Nicholas is going to go with this. There's no chance he's going to pick the Buccaneers, but let's see if you and I agree. KCR, what do you got score-wise here for this matchup?
Yeah, this one's a really tough one, and I'll throw a little caveat that when you have a quarterback starting for the first time who has very, very limited snaps, it's really tough to have sort of the amount of data necessary to have a sort of a good indication of what the quarterback is. I was impressed with what I saw for the most part. There were some times when he just sort of turned around and hucked the ball downfield. I don't think that's a good practice in the NFL. But we do have we've got the Bucs favored by 5 actually. So we've got a 24-19 victory for the Buccaneers.
Oh, okay. Buccaneers. Nicholas, what about you? Let's see where you go here. The heart versus the head. You've said that before when picking Niners games. What is it telling you now?
No, you know me. I'm going with the heart. Yeah, I think it'll be close. You definitely look at one possession, but I'm not betting against Brock Purdy until I see otherwise. So 20-14 to the Niners.
You know, listen. Again, I fell asleep for most of that second, but I watched. There was a great line from somebody on NFL Live that said this: "You can pay attention to the last couple of minutes of Brady versus the Saints. I'm going to pay attention to the first 57 minutes where he was not good against a competent defense that was missing a few players. The Niners on the defensive side of the ball are pretty relatively healthy. I like the Niners at home right now on this stretch here. I'll say Brady won't be frustrated. He'll put up some points, but I like 24-17. I will stay with Brock, the superstar, and the Niners as they continue this stretch here. All right, let's get into our final matchup here as we stay. We go back to the AFC, excuse me. The Sunday night game, it got flexed last week into the Sunday night position. The team you just saw last week, Nicholas, and the Dolphins that lost to the Niners on the road, they head to LA to take on the Chargers. The Chargers obviously coming off a road loss in Vegas against my Raiders, which I couldn't be happier about because I ate a bunch of barbecue chicken and then I mailed the scraps to Keenan Allen's house. Let's get into this game. Nicholas, I'll start with you first. This is a huge game in the AFC. Again, we mentioned it. We're in week 14, folks. Only a few weeks left here in the season, playoff positioning and stuff like that. The Chargers are on the outside looking in. If they had won that game, they probably would have been the 7th wildcard spot, flip-flopping with the Jets. They are not. They are 6-6 right now. The Dolphins obviously are in the 5 spot right now in the wildcard race, and they're chasing the Bills. We talked about the Jets and the Bills matchup earlier. What are you expecting in this matchup with Dolphins and the Chargers, Nicholas?
Yeah, my one of my younger brothers is a Dolphins fan. He's getting pretty frustrated at the Twitter discourse and the kind of national discourse post that Niners game. I think he'll be feeling a lot better after this game. I have quite a hard time believing they aren't going to bounce back here. He was off, for lack of a better word, against the Niners, missed a lot of deep balls, plenty of which were open to Tyreek Hill, but a lot of that was also, as many people have already pointed out, the depth of the linebackers for the 49ers, but Warner and Greenlaw both had great games, really made it hard for him. And he, against the Chargers, he won't be dealing with a defensive front that's as fearsome as what he faced last week, certainly not without Joey Bosa there. Brandon Staley can cook up good game plans. He did that against my Niners a few weeks ago, where he could be really frustrating them for 3 quarters before they got it going. But it's not a good defense still for somebody who's hung his hat on defense. When he got the job, it's the 4th worst against the run by success rate, and it allows the 8th most yards per pass play. So I just think everything is set up here for the Dolphins to really get back on the horse.
Yeah, you know, the Dolphins had a 5-game winning streak that was snapped last week, and they only rushed for 33 yards on 8 carries. But good news for you Dolphin fans out there with a little stat and insight presented by PressBox Live. They're 12-4 since 1995 against the Chargers. That's the 2nd best record against any AFC East team, any AFC team in general. The only other team that they're better than is the team that lives in my heart, the Raiders, where they're 13-4. By the way, that is also the Chargers' worst record against any AFC team in that span. They only have a worse record against the Patriots in that same stretch where they're 3-10. So 4-12 for the Chargers against the Dolphins. Will it be 4-13, KCR? What are you looking forward to in this matchup as Herbert tries to right the boys here? You know, I do like the Chargers coach, but sometimes he plays against himself in some of this. If you ever watch, I watched a lot of Charger games over the last couple of years because of my hatred for them, but he really is a gambler, and sometimes these plays backfire. And I just feel like sometimes the Chargers just don't do the simple things that would get them a victory. Am I on the right train of thought here? What are you looking forward to in the matchup?
Yeah, it's been real frustrating to watch them. And it's funny you say he's a gambler, because that was sort of how, when he first was announced for the head coach, that was a thing that he sort of said that he was going to focus on. Last year, he was correct, right? He went for it on 4th down all the time. This year there was some early season scenarios where he just didn't, and it was a really strange experience because he was such a proponent of it last year. He's gotten back a little bit more towards the go for it, right? They went for 2 a couple weeks ago to close it out, win the game. But I think what I'm really looking forward in this game is really just the quarterback matchup, right? These were 2 quarterbacks in the same draft that everybody was talking about. They were. It looked pretty clearly like the Chargers got the better end of the deal until Mike McDaniel took over the Dolphins and really sort of developed an offense that's suitable for Tua. This year, one of the ways that we evaluate quarterbacks is we look at sort of how many yards they're getting over expected in expected passing situations. So when the defense knows that you have to throw the ball, how successful are you? Tua has 227 plays where there is the defense is expecting pass. He is plus 1.8, so almost an extra 2 yards per play. Herbert has 406 such plays this year, so that's a lot more. That's sort of a testament to how the Chargers have been playing from behind. Minus 0.2, so he has been worse than expected in those situations. That's a pretty big shock, and I think really has you can sort of look at the weapons that each team is playing with, right? Tua is throwing to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. There's a lot of yak going into that number. But again, credit to Tua for having just a ridiculously quick release. Nicholas is very familiar with quick release quarterbacks, leading to lots of yak. You put quick release quarterbacks with playmakers, the ball is in the playmakers' hands before the defense knows what's happening. Tons and tons of yak. Whereas Herbert has been really sort of devoid of wide receivers this year, right? Lots of injuries to both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Allen is back, but he doesn't quite look healthy. Last week I had him for 16 matchups, one-on-one and man. He only won 3 of them. That's a pretty significant decline from where he's been in the past. The good news for the Chargers offense is that the area of the Niners passing offense that was dynamic and explosive last week was passes to the running back. Granted, Christian McCaffrey is sort of a special running back, but somebody who is very similar to him is Austin Eckler, and that is one of Herbert's favorite targets. I think Eckler could have a big game, but keeping up with this Dolphins attack is going to be a real challenge for this Chargers defense, who, as Nicholas alluded to, has just been an absolute dumpster fire this year.
No, it's true. I mean, Carr, we had a couple big plays there on the flea flicker throw. Devontae Adams was able to eat up that secondary as well, and Jacobs obviously running the ball. But the Raiders have been obviously pretty good over the last couple of weeks. One stat I wanted to give you guys real quick, both of you guys, maybe it'll factor into the predictions. The Raiders were actually trailing in that game last week at halftime, 13-10. The Chargers have had 4 losses this season in games in which they led at the half. It's the second most in the NFL, behind Russell Wilson cooking for the Broncos, if you get that analogy from all the memes. The Chargers, again, if they have the lead at halftime, 4 losses this year in the second half of games. I don't know what's going on in the locker room in the second half. Adjustments have been not made clearly with them blowing leads, however small, with that prediction time. KCR, in the final matchup on the Sunday slate, what do you got Dolphins Chargers score-wise, prediction-wise?
I do think the Dolphins are going to win. I just think they're a better team right now. I've got it as a 23-20 victory, so lower scoring than what we might expect. But I do think that the Dolphins pull it out.
And Nicholas, what about you?
Yep, I agree with KCR. I just think offense looks so hard for the Chargers most of the time, and defense looks hard as well by equal measure, and the offense looks pretty easy apart from last week for the Dolphins. For most of the season, I think they win this. So I'll give one possession, 24-17.
You know, it's so funny because we're all stacking everything against the Chargers, and they don't really have much of a home field. And I know Keenan Allen just came back last week, but you were mentioning they've had injuries with wide receivers. Josh Palmer leads them with 612 receiving yards. Who the hell is Josh Palmer? You're probably asking yourself. And that's probably been part of Herbert's frustrations as well. The O-line hasn't played well. Having said all that, and knowing how much I dislike the Chargers, I think they win this game. I do think they win this game. I think there's they need this game. If they lose this game and fall below 500, they will actually fall behind the Raiders in the standings and in the wild card chase. I think the Chargers will have enough to get over the hump in this game. I'm with both of you guys. I think it'll be a 30-27 game, late field goal there, which we know the Chargers are not good at late field goals, but give me the Chargers in that matchup. We have just broken down the Week 14 slate of matchups. I want everybody to out there enjoy your NFL Sunday and Monday matchups. We will be back next week breaking down Week 15 and looking at the playoff race as it continues to shape up. My thank yous, as always, to Nicholas McGee, a digital journalist and a writer over at The Analyst. You can check out all his work at theanalyst.com. And then KCR for all the fantastic data models that you see over on The Analyst. He's also a contributor over there. You can check out all of his fantasy projections, which are the best in the business. That's not me saying it, KCR. It's everybody else saying it. My thank yous to Nicholas and KCR. As always, I am Mike Leon. We'll see you next week for the NFL Day-to-Day show presented by Stats Perform. See you everybody next time.